Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. The winter of 1981 was a big day. This was a big day for all wizards in England. Because today, the Dark Lord was defeated. With the help of an infant in swaddling clothes, the magical world of England was once again bathed in light. However, on this very day, Severus Snape, the youngest potions master in the British magical world, was also killed. His world has fallen into darkness. Lily Evans, the woman he loved most, the eternal white moonlight in his heart, is dead. Snape held Lily's body and wept bitterly until Dumbledore and the others arrived. He ignored Dumbledore's apology. It was no use. He had given everything, even becoming a double agent, but he still couldn't save his lover's life. Carrying Lily's body, Snape arrived at the lake where he and Lily had first met. The big tree was still there. It has grown thicker and stronger, but of all the people who once stood beneath the tree, only he remains. Snape carefully placed Lily's body aside, as if it were a fragile work of art. He dug Lily's grave under the tree with his own hands. Even with his hands covered in blood, he did not stop. After burying Lily, he walked forward, lost and dejected. He didn't know where he was going, or even that he was walking. His heart is dead. He wanted to end his life and go with Lily. Snowflakes fell on him from the air, bringing with them a biting cold. But he seemed completely oblivious. Just then, he heard the cries of a baby. Snape didn't know why, but his attention was suddenly drawn to it. Instinctively, I walked towards the direction from which the sound came. In the snow, he saw a baby lying on the ground. Snape instinctively walked over and picked up the child. In such cold weather, the baby's face had already turned somewhat purple from the cold. The sound gradually faded away. The child stopped crying the moment he picked him up. I tried to open my eyes and look at him. He didn't know why, but the moment he saw this child, his heart was touched. Snape tentatively reached out, but his fingers were grabbed directly by the child in his arms. At that moment, Snape suddenly had a feeling. Perhaps Lily couldn't bear to see him suffer, so she guided him here. The feeling was so strong that he took the child home. And so, the child was named Lucas. Lucas Snape. In Latin, Lucas means sunshine or light. Snape felt that this child was the light that Lily had guided him to. And so, from that day on, Snape began living the life of a stay-at-home dad. July, 1991, Hogwarts. The students are already on holiday, and a small figure is strolling around in the corridor. It was Lucas. Lucas was holding a hamburger in his hand, eating as he walked. Behind him, a fluffy cat was following. Lucas turned to her, "Mrs. Loris, why do you insist on following me? You can't lose trust in me just because I accidentally broke Filch's picture frame when I was 6. Mrs. Loris meowed. Lucas said, all right, I got it. Professor McGonagall's office is just around the corner. Your job's done. You've really been a bit of a nuisance." Lucas took 2 bites of the hamburger. Then she walked toward Professor McGonagall's office. Upon reaching the door, Mrs. Loris indeed turned and left. Even Lucas was exasperated. That ugly cat was driving him crazy. Lucas knocked on the door. "Come in." Lucas pushed open the door and went in. Professor McGonagall was at her desk, writing a letter. Without even looking up, she said, "Lucas, school's about to start, I'm busy, I need to write letters to the young wizards." Lucas trotted to the desk. "Professor McGonagall, aren't you using the photocopier I brought you from the Muggle world?" Professor McGonagall said, "Yes, but I need your signature, don't I?" Lucas shrugged. Professor McGonagall is great in every way, except that she's too conscientious and responsible. Lucas said, "So, is there anything I can help you with?" Professor McGonagall said, "No, Lucas, the biggest help you could give me is that you didn't sneak off to the Forbidden Forest and send Hagrid searching the world for you. The unicorns in the Forbidden Forest have already complained to Hagrid that you are always camped out at their water source, making it impossible for them to get close. Lucas said, Professor McGonagall, that's slander. I just wanted to get close to the unicorn. Professor McGonagall slightly raised her eyes. Clearly, Lucas, your gender doesn't meet the requirements for being close to unicorns. Lucas shrugged. Professor McGonagall said, All right, let's get down to business. Would you like your acceptance letter sent to Severus's house, or should I give it to you directly? Lucas's eyes lit up instantly. You mean, I can enroll now? Professor McGonagall smiled. Obviously, this time your name is added to the Book of Admission, unlike how you secretly write your name in the Book of Admission every year. Lucas exclaimed, Great! I can finally go to school. It's so strange, why does the admission book have to stop me at 11? I've already seen a whole batch of graduates go. Hearing this, Professor McGonagall was somewhat helpless. Snape has no idea how to take care of children, and besides, he has to attend classes at Hogwarts. Therefore, Lucas can be said to have grown up at Hogwarts. The professors took turns teaching him, so he truly saw off an entire graduating class, from 1st grade to 7th grade. Professor McGonagall said, Obviously, this is the rule, and again. Before Professor McGonagall could finish speaking, Lucas quickly interjected, I know, Professor McGonagall, rules govern everything, and everyone must follow the rules. Professor McGonagall gently tapped Lucas's forehead. You think you know everything? All right, don't bother me. The day after tomorrow, when you wake up, there will be a Hogwarts acceptance letter on your bedside table. Lucas said, All right then, by the way, Professor McGonagall, is Professor Flitwick here? Professor McGonagall said, he went home. If you're really bored, you can go look after the Whomping Willow. Pomona went home, and she told me you could look after the Whomping Willow. Lucas nodded, all right then. Lucas turned to leave. Just then, Professor McGonagall realized something. Wait a minute, Lucas, you're not allowed in the kitchen. The house elves are very busy lately, they need to clean Hogwarts inside and out before school starts. Chapter 2. Lucas shrugged, okay, I understand, Professor McGonagall. Watching Lucas's departing figure, Professor McGonagall shook her head helplessly. Lucas is special to Hogwarts. Besides the fact that Lucas grew up at Hogwarts, there was another reason. Lucas was the only one who could stay at Hogwarts during the holidays. Even Dumbledore found this quite surprising. Hogwarts has limitations, just like how apparition cannot be used there. Hogwarts also has a restriction: during holidays, no one except the headmaster and the headmaster are allowed to stay at Hogwarts. However, this restriction seems to have failed in Lucas's case. Even though Dumbledore had investigated Lucas several times, he still didn't know why Lucas was so special. In the end, I just gave up and let things take their course. Lucas first went to the greenhouse, and then retrieved some materials that Sprout usually used to care for the Whomping Willow. Then they headed straight for the willow tree that beats people. This Hogwarts is like a boss to us. Lucas wasn't flustered at all. After all, over the years, he had learned a lot from the 4 deans when he was bored. Among them was Lou, who took care of the person who hit Lou. We arrived at the location of the hit and beat willow. Lucas called out, "Hey big guy, are you all right? It's my turn to take care of you today." As soon as Lucas finished speaking, the note on the Whomping Willow in front of him suddenly began to unfurl. A twig reached out to Lucas. Then it bent down and rubbed against Lucas's face. Lucas laughed and said, "All right, I know you like me a lot, and I like you a lot too. In fact, the magical creatures and various magical plants in the Forbidden Forest all quite like me. But it's so annoying that those unicorns don't like me. Lucas walked over to the man-beating willow and sprinkled some magical fertilizer, which he had prepared in advance to repel insects and prevent freezing, around the man-beating willow. Speaking of which, I'm starting school soon, so I won't be able to come visit you every day anymore. The willow tree waved its branches. Lucas said, I know, I'll still come when I have time. The branches of the willow tree swayed noticeably slower. Lucas rolled his eyes. At your age, you still have such a bad temper. Lucas muttered to himself as he tended to the whomping willow. In fact, he discovered from a young age that he had a special ability. It seemed that these magical animals and plants had a special affinity for him. Moreover, he could roughly understand the meaning of these animals and plants. For example, that ugly cat, and the willow cat. His ability is quite rare. He had told Snape about it, and Snape had helped him investigate. However, I haven't figured it out yet. Professor Binns said that he seemed to remember seeing it in the book. But he needs to go back and check. And then, that was it. Professor Binns forgot about it as soon as he turned his head, and Lucas didn't bother to ask him about it later. Do whatever you want, it's not a bad thing anyway. Moreover, Lucas managed to pass a considerable amount of time at Hogwarts thanks to this ability. For example, he could go to the Forbidden Forest to play with magical creatures. Aside from those damned spiders who were always thinking about eating him, the other magical creatures were pretty good. He at least has a good relationship with Lucas. This also resulted in Lucas and Hagrid having an extremely good relationship. After dealing with the whomping willow, Lucas chatted with her for a while longer. Then he turned and walked towards Hagrid's cabin. At the entrance to the cabin, Hagrid was tending to a hippogriff. The hippogriff saw Lucas and trotted right towards him. She gently nuzzled her head against Lucas's shoulder. Lucas laughed, Buckbeak, you've grown so much. You're growing so fast. Looks like the food's been pretty good lately. Hagrid said with a hint of jealousy, Lucas, sometimes, I really don't like you that much. Every time you appear, they all come looking for you, even though I take care of them every day. Lucas said, Hagrid, you can't say that. That big spider in your Forbidden Forest doesn't like me very much either. It only wants to eat me. Hagrid said somewhat awkwardly, Aragog is rather short-tempered. Lucas rolled his eyes, forget it, but I need some of its venom, preferably from a live animal. Hagrid, can you get me some? I'm currently researching a new potion, and it requires venom. Hagrid exclaimed, you've started researching new potions again. What kind of potion is it this time? Lucas said, it's not exactly a new potion. I just wanted to improve the spider venom potion, the current version still has some side effects. Hagrid nodded, okay, I'll go to the Forbidden Forest tonight to get it for you. If you need anything else, you should let me know in advance, because I'll be leaving Hogwarts soon. You know, every year when they're welcoming new students, the professors are so busy they're always on their hands, some of them end up being assigned to me. Lucas gave an okay sign, I got it, Hagrid. I think you might be happy to do this job this year. Hagrid paused for a moment. Lucas had no intention of explaining to Hagrid, after all, surprises are only interesting when you don't know them. I chatted with Hagrid for a while, and also played with Buckbeak for a bit. Lucas calculated that it was about time and headed towards Hogwarts Castle. They went straight to the basement and arrived at Snape's office. Standing at the office door, Lucas put his head against the door and listened. Quiet, very quiet. Just then, a voice came from the office, why aren't you coming in? What are you doing standing at the door? Lucas's face fell as he pushed open the door. Inside the room, next to the control panel, Snape was gently stirring the crucible with a stirring rod. On the other side of the crucible, a tube was dripping shimmering potion into a bottle, drop by drop. Snape said, tell me the name of the potion, and how to brew it. Lucas quickly said, the energizing potion will make the user feel more energetic after taking it, but after the effects wear off, they will feel even more tired. The side effects cannot be resolved at the moment, but they can be reduced by adding some special herbs. The method for boiling it is. The rest of the text is incomplete and cannot be translated. Snape nodded in satisfaction. Looks like your stupid brain isn't all used for playing around. Lucas's lips twitched slightly. Throughout Hogwarts, from Dumbledore down to the house elves, who would dare call him stupid? Everyone praises him for being smart. Only Snape talked about him every day. However, Lucas got used to it. Let's put it this way, he'd be a little surprised if Snape didn't insult him one day. Does he really think Snape is just a nickname? You could call him Venomous Tongue too. Chapter 3 July 14th. Lucas got up very early. As soon as I opened my eyes, I looked towards the head of my bed. Sure enough, he found the Hogwarts acceptance letter he had been dreaming of on his bedside table. A smile instantly spread across Lucas's face. It's here, it's finally here, his Hogwarts acceptance letter. Ever since he transmigrated here, he hasn't stopped thinking about this thing. After all, with this, he could be considered officially enrolled. Of course, it seems he started school quite some time ago. They were transported here and then left in the snow. I have no idea what my heartless parents were thinking. If Snape hadn't happened to be passing by, he would have been dead. However, even though he spent every day at Hogwarts, he learned a lot, but he never actually used magic. He was fascinated by magic. However, all the professors, including Dumbledore, were in complete agreement. Only after Lucas obtains the wand can he cast the spell. Otherwise, the use of spells in private is not permitted. Otherwise, you'll get beaten up. Lucas did manage to secretly release them, but the price was that Professor McGonagall gave him a severe beating. Now, I've finally reached the age to enroll in school, all I need to do is obtain the spell. Lucas can unleash things like Avada Kedavra, the Unseen Blade, and Cruciatus Curse. But Lucas quickly realized something was wrong. Why does his subconscious thought always revolve around dark magic? Indeed, Snape had a profound influence on him. Yes, Lucas never considered that it was his own problem, he only felt that Snape had a profound influence on him. Of course, he hasn't learned these exciting spells yet. What a pity! He couldn't wait to get his wand and then learn the complete children's spellbook. Just thinking about that mesmerizing green light made Lucas's hair stand on end, it was such an exciting and captivating color. Just then, suddenly, a clear voice rang in Lucas's mind. Ding! Host has received an acceptance letter to Hogwarts. The story has officially begun, and the story breakdown system is officially activated. Lucas's body suddenly stiffened. System? Then came great joy. Sure enough, he does have a system. I knew it. How could a transmigrator like him not have a system? That's standard equipment for time travelers. How can there be no system? It seems that it's not that it doesn't exist, but rather that it doesn't meet the activation requirements. Lucas quickly said, System, hurry, give me a self-introduction. This system is dedicated to serving its host. Before using this system, please be informed of the precautions in advance. This system is just an ordinary cheat, therefore, all actions taken by the host are the host's personal actions. Lucas was shocked to hear this from the system. If he's not mistaken, this system is trying to shift the blame, isn't it? Why are they trying to shift the blame right off the bat? Can this system be taken seriously? Before Lucas could even ask, the system continued. This system is a plot collapse system. The host needs to collapse the original plot. The degree of collapse varies. The system will issue a reward. The system's voice stopped abruptly, and Lucas waited for about 10 seconds. Then what? That's all. Lucas gave a thumbs up. What a simple and clear system. Just then, Lucas's eyes suddenly lit up. System, you just said that there's a reward for breaking the storyline, right? Yes, host. Lucas's lips curled into a smile, then you can give out the rewards. The system slowly typed a question mark. Lucas said, first of all, I wasn't in the original story. My appearance is already the biggest plot hole. Secondly, Snape had no children, but now I'm his adopted son. Admittedly, I haven't called him Dad yet, but my father is indeed Severus Snape. The system fell silent. A moment later. Ding! Plot breakdown achieved, host appears, breakdown rating S, reward, 1 magic wand draw chance. Ding! Story breakdown achieved. Snape's adopted son, breakdown rating A, reward, 1 chance to draw a high-level spell. Lucas's eyes lit up, it really could work. He actually managed to fix the bug. Lucas was about to speak again. The system spoke first. Ding! System detection indicates the host is suspected of exploiting a bug. Therefore, actions that disrupt the system's flow before system activation will not be counted as system failure. Lucas rolled his eyes. This system, he couldn't handle it. However, getting 2 rewards seems like enough. Lucas looked at the 2 rewards from the system, they both seemed to be lottery prizes. Lucas asked, so, system, are all your rewards from lotteries? No, all formats are possible. Shall we start the prize draw now? Lucas nodded, then let's draw. Let's start with the wand. As Lucas finished speaking, 10 blind boxes fell in front of him with a whoosh. Lucas's lips twitched slightly. This system is pretty trendy, they've even got blind boxes involved. There's really no trick to lotteries. It's purely a matter of fate, though of course, there's also the possibility of shameless behind-the-scenes manipulation. However, circumstances are beyond our control. Even if someone is manipulating things behind the scenes, what can he do? Lucas randomly pointed to a blind box. The next moment, the blind box lit up. Then, 2 dragons, 1 black and 1 white, rushed out of the blind box. They weren't the large lizards from the west. It is the Eastern Divine Dragon. Lucas's eyes lit up immediately. The special effects were awesome. As everyone knows, the brilliance of special effects determines the strength of an item. With such cool special effects, it shouldn't be a disappointment. The black and white dragons let out a roar, and then landed directly on the ground. The next moment, 2 magic wands, 1 black and 1 white, appeared. Buy 1 get 1 free? Lucas looked puzzled. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have drawn the black and white wands. The black wand is primarily for offensive purposes and provides a boost to all black magic. The white wand is a primary guardian, providing a boost to all white magic. The white wand has been automatically registered with the Ministry of Magic. Its origin can be traced back to a custom order made by the host from the Kingdom of Ebony. Lucas clicked his tongue in amazement. What an intelligent system! It's truly impressive. Lucas held the 2 wands in his hands. Believe it or not, the moment Lucas held the wand, he felt a very special connection with it. The slender wands differ somewhat from ordinary wooden wands in that they have a glaze on their surface. It looks very shiny and smooth. Lucas didn't know what the wand was made of, but he could sense its strength. It was at least more compatible and more powerful than the wands he secretly used from other people. Lucas was very satisfied. The black wand had no prior record, which meant that it could be a trump card for him. Even when casting spells outside, he wouldn't be tracked down. Chapter 4. Lucas suddenly felt a surge of anticipation for the system's lottery. This thing's got something special. Lucas said, System, give me the spell lottery. Ding! Advanced spell lottery activated. It's the same blind box, and I have the experience of my first lottery draw. Without the slightest hesitation, Lucas took it out with one hand. A blind box was opened. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have won the Azkaban 3-piece set. Lucas's mouth dropped open. The Azkaban trio? Could it be the one he was thinking of? Lucas looked at the items, and sure enough, there were the Killing Curse, the Imperious Curse, and the Cruciatus Curse. Good, 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 what a fine Azkaban set. This is really... That's awesome. As a transmigrator, and one raised by Snape at that. Lucas never felt there was anything wrong with using the Unforgivable Curse. On the contrary, he felt that the Unforgivable Curse was definitely the most useful thing in the world. Simple, straightforward, and highly effective. In this era where many problems are difficult to solve, the Unforgivable Curse allows you to directly eliminate the person who caused the problem. Isn't that a blessing from heaven? Lucas, in any case, felt it was a blessing. Lucas directly withdraws the system reward. I witnessed the power of the system once again. Upon receiving the reward, Lucas surprisingly gained direct control of all 3 Azkaban sets. Furthermore, their mastery of the skill is extremely high. In the magical world, there is no clear hierarchy in the control of spells. However, there is a general range. For example, when you first learn it, you can use it. The higher your skill level, the greater the power of the spell. After that, one can cast spells silently, and then one can cast spells without a staff. Of course, even if some wizards have an exceptional grasp of certain spells, they still won't easily cast spells without a wand. That's because, in addition to channeling spells, wands can also enhance the power of spells. This is also the greatest function of a magic wand. The system's indoctrination allowed Lucas to directly reach the level of casting spells without a staff, in other words, his spell proficiency was maxed out. Lucas is now really eager to try out the Azkaban 3-piece set. I really want to kill someone for fun. Okay, just kidding. Lucas has never killed anyone, he's a pathetic BD who's never seen blood, and who knows when he'll ever have the chance to. Just then, there was a knock on Lucas's door. Lucas quickly turned off the system's virtual light screen and put away his wand. Because he knew very well that after knocking, someone would come in the next moment. Sure enough, the moment the knocking sounded, a large Professor Snape floated right in. His sharp gaze fell on Lucas. You're still lying in bed? With you like this, I don't think Hogwarts should even give you an acceptance letter. After all, someone as lazy as you would be wasting your time at Hogwarts. Lucas's lips twitched slightly. I understand, I'll get up and study right now, and memorize the potion ingredients. Snape scoffed, I'm not at Hogwarts today. I'll be back tonight, and I want to see you memorize 3 potion recipes. After saying that, Snape flicked his robes and floated away. That's right, it's floating. At least that's how it appears from Lucas's perspective. Lucas's face instantly fell. He had already memorized all 3 potion recipes, including the basic ones. The potions he carries now, any one of them requires a combination of 20 different herbs or magical animal ingredients. You need to memorize 3. Sure enough, Snape was really outrageous, even though he was his adoptive father. Harry Potter, come to Hogwarts. Once Harry Potter arrives, Snape won't even have time for him anymore. Since someone has to get criticized, why can't that person be Harry Potter? Lucas understood the principle of better to die than to die myself. But suddenly, Lucas realized something. His system, it's some kind of system with a broken storyline, right? If Harry Potter isn't allowed to enroll, wouldn't the storyline fall apart completely? Lucas's eyes gradually brightened. First, if Harry Potter is not allowed to enroll, he will temporarily bear the wrath of Snape. But after school starts, with that pack of foolish lions around, someone will always attract the attention. From this perspective, it seems that the impact on him wasn't particularly significant. But what if it could prevent Harry Potter from enrolling in school? The plot was so badly messed up. Just thinking about Lucas makes me shudder. This is way too awesome, you pigeons. However, Harry Potter was entirely the product of Dumbledore's schemes. That seems a bit difficult to achieve. After Lucas finished packing, he went straight to Snape's office. Sitting at his desk, Lucas put his legs up on it. His mind was racing, trying to figure out how to use his system. It's obvious that his own system is designed to make him a plot disruptor. However, how to destroy it is another matter. Lucas had always been wary of the children's book, Hogwarts. After all, no children's book has ever caused so many deaths. Most importantly, during all those years at Hogwarts, absolutely nothing happened there. It was rather uneventful. The safest place in the British magical world truly deserves its title. However, starting this year, after Harry Potter enrolled, Hogwarts began to suffer many misfortunes. Lucas simply didn't believe there wasn't something fishy going on. Let's not talk about anything else, just the Philosopher's Stone. That thing, Nicholas Flamel had Dumbledore destroy it outright. But this guy did something else, he specifically used it to lure Voldemort over. Isn't this clearly a test for Harry Potter? Therefore, Lucas thought that he should simply prevent Harry Potter from enrolling in school. This is unlikely. That's not easy to achieve either. After all, as the protagonist, who knows how many eyes are watching him? However, as the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes, and Lucas felt that he might as well give it a try. What's the simplest way to change the plot? Of course, we should start with the main characters. The plot, of course, revolves around the main characters. With some time still remaining before the start of the new school term, Lucas felt he should do something. At least getting more rewards and increasing strength is the most important thing. At the very least, he needs to ensure he has the strength to go toe-to-toe with Voldemort before Voldemort returns. At noon, Lucas headed towards the auditorium. During the holidays at Hogwarts, no one would compete with him for food, he always ate by himself. Upon arriving at the auditorium, I found only one person inside. Chapter 5. Lucas's gaze sharpened slightly when he saw the person sitting at the long table eating. Quirinascillo. That's the unfortunate guy who got possessed by Voldemort. Quirrell was also pleasantly surprised to see Lucas. Lucas, you're still at Hogwarts? I thought you'd be wandering around Diagon Alley. At this point, Quirrell did not stutter. There were no headscarves or anything like that. He looks very sunny. After all, how bad can someone who enjoys traveling and making wildflower specimens be? Lucas sat down next to Professor Quirrell. His lunch appeared on the table automatically. Lucas asked, Professor Quirrell, what brings you back to Hogwarts? Professor Quirrell chuckled, there are still some days before the start of the semester. I plan to go out for a walk and come back to pick up some things. You know, Professor Dumbledore has appointed me as the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor for next year, so I need to broaden my horizons. You can tell other students about it when school starts. Quirrell's tone was tinged with excitement and agitation. And some aspirations. Lucas fell silent. Looking at Quirrell, Lucas couldn't believe that such a good person would later be controlled by Voldemort. Then it becomes that inhuman, ghostly thing. Lucas asked, where are you planning to go? Professor Quirrell said, I originally wanted to go to the Kingdom of Fa, but Professor Dumbledore told me that the Black Forest in Albania might provide me with more material. So, I've decided to take a trip to the Black Forest. Lucas's heart skipped a beat. You just said that Professor Dumbledore recommended you to go to the Black Forest in Albania. Quirrell nodded, yes, I think Professor Dumbledore is right. After all, there are indeed many dark creatures inhabiting the Black Forest. Lucas said, I don't think this is a good idea, that place is too dangerous. Professor Quirrell chuckled, it is quite dangerous, but Lucas, as you know, I've always taught Muggle studies, and I'm very eager to take defense against the dark arts. However, I've never actually had the opportunity to teach this course, so I need to do a lot of preparation. Mr. Allen also suggested that I go and take a look around more. Because of the agreement, dark creatures will not attack wizards indiscriminately. Lucas's face remained expressionless, but his brows furrowed slightly. Allen was last year's defense against the dark arts professor. But as far as Lucas knows, this professor seems to have basically never left England. How could he know about the Black Forest in Albania? Quirrell glanced at the time. Oh dear, we're a little late, Lucas. See you when school starts. After saying that, Quirrell hurriedly stood up. Just then, Quirrell had an idea. He opened the suitcase. Oh, right, Lucas, I prepared a gift for you. This is a Morning Glory specimen that I made especially for you last year. Didn't you say Morning Glories are interesting? It looks fragile, yet it managed to climb so high step by step. Quirrell then handed the specimen to Lucas. Lucas's heart skipped a beat. Quirrell laughed. All right, I really have to go now, Lucas, goodbye. Lucas watched Quirrell's somewhat simple and hurried figure disappear into the distance. He began, Professor Quirrell, is it possible to skip the Black Forest? Quirrell paused for a moment, then smiled and said, I know you're worried about me, Lucas. Trust me, I'll be all right. Goodbye. After saying that, Quirrell hurriedly left. Lucas's face darkened as he watched Quirrell's departing figure. Damn it, damn it. Lucas couldn't change anything. He wanted to alter Quirrell's trajectory, but he couldn't. He wasn't strong enough, and besides, he had no reason to stop Quirrell. Most importantly, he is not the one playing the game. Just then, a voice rang out beside Lucas. Lucas, you look angry. Lucas was startled. I turned my head to look. Dumbledore. Dumbledore looked at Lucas with a smile. So, Lucas, what's making you so angry? Lucas said, Nothing, Professor, I'm not angry. Dumbledore glanced at Lucas and said meaningfully, There are many things that need to be done. That's the rule, and also the arrangement of fate. All we can do is try our best to make the result as perfect as possible, and as close to our expectations as possible, right? Lucas nodded, I've learned a lot, Professor. Dumbledore laughed and said, Lucas, you're very clever. I knew that the day you entered Hogwarts. You are unique. Although I don't know the reason, I believe you will make the right choices and walk the right path. Lucas, forcing a smile, said, I think you're right, Professor. That's what I think too. Dumbledore smiled. He turned and left. Lucas shook his head. Sure enough, the plot falling apart wasn't so simple. At least, given Dumbledore's well-laid plan, it wouldn't be easy for him to disrupt the plot. But let's give it a try. What if it works out? Besides, as long as the overall direction doesn't go wrong, we can still manipulate the details, right? In the afternoon, on the path leading to Hogsmeade, Hagrid drove the cart, whistling. Enjoying the pleasant breeze, as a warden of Hogwarts. He was probably the freest person at Hogwarts. There's nothing else to do but travel back and forth between Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. I go out and do some shopping every now and then, it's incredibly comfortable. However, just as Hagrid was enjoying himself, the straw mat on the cart was suddenly lifted, and the next moment, a head appeared next to Hagrid. Hagrid, how much longer until we get there? Hagrid was so startled he almost jumped off the car. Lucas, what are you doing here? Lucas shook off the weeds from his clothes and sat down next to Hagrid. I'll go to Hogsmeade with you, and we'll stop by the Muggle world while we're at it. Lucas spoke casually. But Hagrid was shocked, his eyes widened in disbelief. What? No, no, absolutely not. Professor Snape said you're not allowed to leave Hogwarts until he returns. You need to go back now. Lucas said, Hagrid, how can you say something so foolish? If I could go back, why would I have secretly followed you out? Don't you agree? Hagrid was stunned for a moment. For some reason, he felt that what Lucas said made a lot of sense. There isn't a single flaw. Lucas said, "Don't worry, Hagrid, just focus on getting me to Hogsmeade, and then you don't need to worry about me. Don't fret, no one will know. I know what I'm doing." Chapter 6. Hagrid looked at Lucas with distrust in his eyes. Although he and Lucas usually have a good relationship, but at times like this, he couldn't believe a word Lucas said, because Lucas had a history of such behavior. This goes back to the last time, the time before that, and the time before that, when he took Lucas away from Hogwarts. Hagrid was too lazy to go into the details of what happened. Anyway, after that, more than 10 shops in Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley blacklisted Lucas, forbidding him from going to their shops to cause trouble. According to a shop owner in Diagon Alley, if Lucas hadn't been constantly mentioning his father Snape, he would have been beaten to death long ago. The car swayed and bumped as it arrived in front of a shop in Hogsmeade. Hagrid said, "Lucas, promise me you'll wait for me here. I'll be out soon. Then you'll need to come back to Hogwarts with me, otherwise I'll have a hard time explaining it to Professor Snape." Lucas waved his hand, all right, I know. Go ahead and do your thing. You know, Big Hagrid is really easy to fool. How smart can someone be who drinks truth serum like it's a beverage?" After Hagrid entered the store, Lucas immediately turned around and left. He has a lot of things to take care of on this trip. What is meant by collapsed storyline? It's very simple, start with the main character. If the protagonist can be killed, then the collapse will be absolutely complete. However, it's clear that this is somewhat unrealistic. However, Lucas could still think of other ways. However, the prerequisite is that he must first make contact with the main characters. Let's see if we can use our brains. Hogsmeade bus stop. In the wizarding world, it is the most convenient mode of transportation. The night bus is the one to be reckoned with. In the original story, the night bus was meant to help wizards who had nowhere else to turn. And it only appears at night. But in fact, the night bus is the only public transportation in the wizarding world besides the Hogwarts Express. However, the daytime bus is not as fast as the nighttime bus. And just like buses in the Muggle world, it has its own routes. Most importantly, the ticket price is very cheap. Not long after, a dilapidated-looking bus pulled up in front of Lucas. Besides Lucas, several other wizards were also waiting for the train at the station. The bus doors opened, and people boarded one after another. Ticket price, 2 copper nats. It's really good value for money. Sitting on the bus, Lucas was thinking about how to make an appearance with our protagonist, Harry Potter, and incidentally change the plot. Lucas's best option was still to prevent Harry Potter from enrolling, but this method was fundamentally unworkable. After all, this is Dumbledore's pawn. Then Lucas had no choice but to settle for second best. They started with Harry Potter himself. But how do we do it? Harry Potter's enrollment in the academy is a done deal, he can only use his brain in other ways. Lucas was certain he had never thought about anything so intently in his entire life. Even in his past life, he wouldn't have put in this much effort during the college entrance exam, he would have gotten into Tsinghua or Peking University long ago. It wasn't just a slight difference, the cut-off score for Tsinghua and Peking universities at the time was 685, and he scored 68.5. Okay, that's not important. Lucas, deep in thought, didn't notice that at the next stop the bus made, 2 people boarded. The 2 men were wearing tattered black robes and had scars on their faces. Until the 2 of them pressed their wands against his forehead. Lucas then seemed to wake up from his dream. Oh, he's been hijacked. Lucas remained calm. To be honest, this wasn't the first time he'd encountered something like this. As for the security situation in the magical world, Places like Diagon Alley appear peaceful and serene. But what is the reality? Knockout Alley is the place that best reflects the state of the wizarding world, where countless wandering wizards gather. What is a wandering wizard? They have no stable jobs, no source of income, and no home. The reason these wandering wizards exist is related to the absurd rules of the magical world. The magical world is quite small, apart from wizards like Nicholas Flamel who conduct research. There are really too few job opportunities in the wizarding world. Hospital, shops, Ministry of Magic, Hogwarts. That's right, just these 4 places. The life of a wizard can actually be summarized in a single table. Enroll at Hogwarts, spend 7 years there, and then after 7 years, look for a job. If you can't find a job, break your wand, and you'll be registered with the Ministry of Magic, thus becoming completely detached from the wizarding world. Go find a job in the Muggle world. But after studying magic for 7 years and witnessing the wonders of the magical world, how could you possibly be willing to go back to the Muggle world and be an ordinary person? Especially ordinary people who are being monitored. Wizards who break their wands will have a tracking thread implanted by the Ministry of Magic. However, this thing wasn't planted on the wand, but on the wizard's body. As long as you cast spells outside, then congratulations, you'll definitely have a place in Azkaban. Hogwarts graduates nearly 100 students each year. And how many jobs are there in the magical world? Therefore, those wizards who were unwilling to leave the magical world had no choice but to become wandering wizards. Under normal circumstances, the Ministry of Magic doesn't interfere with them. However, these wandering wizards lived in poverty and were easily led astray by crime. Once someone turns to crime, they will be labeled a dark wizard. The 2 people who robbed the bus are clearly in this situation. Lucas looked at the wizard who was pointing his wand at him. His hands were trembling, and he seemed very nervous. Lucas shook his head. A complete newbie, obviously a newbie. Lucas said, "First robbery." The wandering wizard blurted out instinctively, "How did you know?" Lucas almost burst out laughing. This wandering wizard looks a bit like that robber who stole IQ card fan. But the wandering wizard quickly realized what was happening. "Shut up and give me all your money." Lucas said, "Look, I'm just a kid. I didn't even attend Hogwarts. Where would I get the money?" The wandering wizard pondered for a moment, and inexplicably felt that what Lucas said seemed to make some sense. He turned to look at the wandering wizard controlling the driver at the front of the carriage. "What do we do now?" That wandering wizard was clearly a novice as well. He was a little confused when his companion asked him that. Lucas said, "You should now remove the wand from my forehead, find another target, force him to hand over all his money, and then run before the Aurors arrive." The wandering wizard suddenly realized, "You're right." Chapter 7. The wizard immediately turned his wand around and aimed it at a fat man next to Lucas. The fat man was so frightened that he jumped. Lucas looked at the simple-minded robber and smiled. This guy is actually quite fun. He's definitely a newbie. The idiot robber pointed his magic wand at the fat man's forehead. "Fatty, hand over all the money to me." The fat man stammered, I have no money." However, he instinctively protected the briefcase beside him. Lucas rolled his eyes. It seems that it's not just the robbers who are novices. Indeed, Snape was right about one thing. The magical world is an extreme case. Some people live like insects, completely oblivious to any sense of crisis. There is another group of people who live a precarious existence. In conclusion, the gap between the rich and the poor is too large. However, Lucas did develop some interest in this fat man. This fat man looks robust and strong. Moreover, the briefcase in his arms looked to be made of high-quality materials. This combination, in this magical world, can only appear on one type of person. Keiko. The robber wasn't stupid, he saw the fat man's actions. I also know that there's definitely something valuable in the briefcase that the fat man is carrying. He pointed the wand forward forcefully. Let go, give me that bag. The fat man quickly said, no, there's nothing in this bag. The more the fat man talked, the more interested the robbers became. He grabbed the briefcase. The fat man still tried to resist. The bumbling robber thrust his magic wand forward forcefully. Do you want to die? Upon seeing this, the fat man quickly let go. I dared not speak again. After snatching the bag, the robber opened it immediately. Then, a cloth bag was taken out from inside. Open the bag, and a golden stone appears. Lucas's pupils suddenly contracted. This magical fluctuation, this appearance. This is a philosopher's stone. The robber said, what is this? It's just a broken rock, and you're treating it like a treasure. Just then, 2 vortexes appeared outside the car window. The next moment, 2 aurors emerged from the vortex. Without a word, the auror brandished his wand and attacked the robbers on the bus. The robbers, caught off guard, hastily defended themselves. The magic stone in his hand fell to the ground. Upon seeing this, the fat man quickly tried to put the magic stone away. However, there was someone who was faster than him. It was Lucas. Lucas scooped up the philosopher's stone in one swift motion. The fat man exclaimed in shock, give it back to me. Lucas ignored him and instead examined the object in his hand that resembled a philosopher's stone. It really does look like the philosopher's stone. However, it doesn't seem so. There is magic in it, but the amount of magic is too small. Although, according to the original text, the philosopher's stone no longer possessed much magic. However, the magic power of such top-tier alchemical products shouldn't be this weak. This weakness is not about quantity, but about quality. So, there's only one possibility left: this object, which resembles a magic stone, is a fake? Just as Lucas was lost in thought, the fat man had already snatched the object, which appeared to be a magic stone, back. Then, I carefully put it away. The robbers have already been dealt with by the 2 aurors. After all, what kind of trouble could 2 clueless newbies cause? After the robbers were taken away, the bus started moving again. It didn't cause much of a commotion for the passengers. It seems somewhat commonplace. Lucas sat down next to the fat man. He sized the fat man up and down. The fat man made Lucas feel a little awkward. What's wrong? Lucas stroked his chin. Doesn't seem like someone from the Ministry of Magic, nor like someone from a pure-blood family. What do you do? The fat man left Lucas somewhat bewildered. He also wanted to ask what the child in front of him did for a living. They come up here and ask these kinds of questions right away. The fat man felt that he must be having a run of bad luck today. Encountering robbers is one thing, but in the magical world, such things are common. But why did we run into this mentally ill person? Just then, the bus arrived at the station, and the fat man squeezed past Lucas and got off. Lucas swears to God, he really wanted to stop the fat man and ask him a few more questions. But this fat guy, how should I put it, he has a unique advantage. He just squeezed through. Lucas couldn't resist at all, so he squeezed through. This is bullying people just because they're big. What's most infuriating is that Lucas couldn't resist. Watching the fat man hurriedly leave after getting off the bus. Lucas kept this in mind. A counterfeit magic stone, appearing at this very special time. This is really intriguing. 2 more stops later. Lucas has arrived at his destination. Privet Road. As a landmark in the Hogwarts series, it is second only to Hogwarts itself. Number 4. Privet Drive is truly a place that everyone knows. After all, this is the home of our protagonist, Harry Potter. Lucas got out of the car. His grand scheme of racking up system rewards would begin from here. Lucas had figured it out, since he couldn't prevent Harry Potter from enrolling in school. Then I can let him experience the magical world sooner. He could even become Harry Potter's guide into the wizarding world. Wouldn't that also change the plot? Although it certainly wouldn't be as rewarding as preventing Harry Potter from enrolling. But wealth lies in accumulation. If they come into contact with the main characters, how many opportunities are there to change the plot? Of course, Lucas the nanny wouldn't do it. Actually, Lucas thought the best way was to find a way to kill Harry Potter. However, it's clear that with Snape around, this plan is not very feasible. However, we can't kill Harry Potter off. It seems the main cast isn't just Harry Potter alone. Most importantly, the supporting characters' storylines are also part of the storyline. Thinking about it this way, Lucas felt much better. It seemed there were quite a few areas he could control. Lucas followed the street to the fourth house. Number 4, Privet Road. Yes, place names in England are just that simple and straightforward. Just count the number and you're done. Lucas went straight to the door. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. Soon, the door opened. A middle-aged man stood at the door, sporting a mustache, and his size made him look like a pig that had come to life. Vernon Dursley, one of the most notorious Muggle trio, as the Hogwarts professors called him. Vernon looked Lucas up and down. Who are you looking for? Lucas said, I'm looking for Harry Potter. Upon hearing this, a look of vigilance immediately appeared in the courtyard. We don't have that person here. Lucas glanced at Vernon with some surprise. No, this reaction is very wrong. Chapter 8. Lucas had considered many of Vernon's reactions. Dislike, rejection, etc. But, be wary. That's quite interesting. Just then, a voice came from inside the house. Who is Vernon? Vernon turned to look, and Penelope walked towards the door. Vernon said, we need to find Harry Potter. Penny's expression changed instantly. He looked Lucas up and down. There's no one like him here. You've come to the wrong place. Lucas noticed the wariness and suspicion in Penny's eyes. A smile unconsciously crept onto his lips. That's interesting. Lucas said, it seems you can guess who I am. Vernon stepped forward, shielding Penny behind him. I'll say it again, there's no such person here. Whatever you're doing, go somewhere else and don't make trouble for yourself. Lucas laughed, do you think you can stop me? Now that you know where I'm from, why are you still blocking my way? Vernon instinctively took 2 steps back. Penny tugged at Vernon's sleeve. He took 2 steps forward. I won't let him get involved in your messy affairs, and I won't let him go to that place. No way. Lucas laughed and said, interesting. Actually, I'm curious about something, you two dislike Harry Potter. At least that's how it appears on the surface. And under these circumstances, shouldn't you just send Harry Potter away? Wouldn't that make you more comfortable? Vernon said, we're not going to pay for him to go to that lousy magic school. Lucas nodded, a very good reason, but Harry Potter's parents left him a considerable fortune. I don't think I need your money, so what exactly is your purpose? Penny said coldly, what exactly do you want? As far as I know, that magic school won't send a single child to their door. Who exactly are you? Lucas looked at Penny in surprise. As expected, you know a lot. It seems your relationship with Harry Potter's mother isn't as bad as I thought. Otherwise, you wouldn't know so many secrets of the magical world. Penny frowned at Lucas. I'll say it again, I won't let him go to that magic school, and I won't let you take him away, absolutely not. Through the crack, Lucas saw Harry Potter appear behind Penny. Harry Potter asked, Auntie? What happened? Penny snapped, go back to where you belong. This is none of your business. Harry Potter said oh, and although he agreed verbally, he still secretly peeked out after returning to the closet. Penny looked at Lucas, why can't you just let him go? Lucas looked thoughtful. A moment later. Lucas suddenly realized, so that's it, you were actually protecting Harry Potter. Lucas should have thought of this long ago. The portrayal of this family in the original work is incredibly vivid and detailed. Therefore, Lucas consciously overlooked some issues. For example, if you really want to abuse someone, they won't take him in, much less get him glasses. And this is in this day and age, you need to get glasses. Penny glanced behind her. Then he said to Vernon, you should go back now. Vernon glanced at Penny. Penny said, it's okay. Vernon nodded. Then, they went back into the house and closed the door. Penny crossed her arms and looked at Lucas. I don't know what you're talking about, but I won't waste money sending him to that damn magic school, absolutely not. Lucas looked at Penny. He chuckled and said, pretending, must have been tiring, right? Penny paused, stunned, what? Lucas said, actually, before I came here, I was planning to teach your family a lesson and then take Harry Potter with me. Let him enter the world he truly belongs in, but after meeting you, I feel I should indeed apologize to you. I was prejudiced against you, but I overlooked many issues. Originally, I didn't think it was that complicated, but now it seems that the facade you're putting on is more complex than I imagined. Will you miss your sister? Hearing Lucas say that, Penny's body visibly stiffened. Her eyes were slightly red. But he still said aloud, I don't understand what you're talking about, but now, please leave. I've made myself very clear. Lucas laughed, you really think that by refusing to let Harry Potter go to the magical world, he'll be safe? But it's clear he belongs to that world, and whether he enters that world is not something you can control. Penny remained silent for a moment. Why won't you let him go? He lost his parents because of that damn, bullshit magical world. He lost his parents, and I lost my sister. If it weren't for that damn world, my sister could have brought him to my house every Christmas, and we could have celebrated the holiday together and enjoyed dinner together. Now, my sister is gone, and all I want is for her remaining bloodline to live on. Penny tried her best to suppress her voice. I don't know if she was afraid Harry Potter would hear, or if she was suppressing her own emotions. Lucas shook his head, he belongs to the magical world, it was destined from the moment he was born. If he doesn't receive systematic training, the repressed magic within him will kill him. Moreover, he has his own mission. To be honest, if I could, I wouldn't want him to enter the magical world, since that would be more in my best interest. But unfortunately, my word doesn't count, and neither does yours. If you really want him to live, then let him leave. Penny fell silent. She gave Lucas a deep look, I don't want him to know about our conversation. Lucas laughed, of course. Penny turned and walked into the house, but she didn't close the door. Lucas shook his head. What a contradictory person he is. She envied Lily, was jealous of Lily, but also loved Lily. The same applies to Harry Potter, she knows everything that happens in the wizarding world. Therefore, she knew that her sister had lost her life protecting Harry Potter. Therefore, she couldn't be good to Harry Potter, even though Harry Potter was her sister's only bloodline. She couldn't just sit idly by. If Petunia were truly a bad person, Lily wouldn't have set the bloodline as a safe zone when using that spell. In other words, Lily had already planned that after she died, her sister would adopt Harry Potter. Chapter 9. Lucas had finally figured out the true direction the plot was heading. At the end of the movie, Lucas simply thought that Penny's words were an attempt to whitewash her. Now it seems that Penny is quite an interesting character. Indeed, the real world is different from the world on the screen. Every person is flesh and blood. Lucas lifted his foot and walked into the house. Penny stood in the doorway. Seeing Lucas come in, he said, it's in the closet, but he'll be back in the evening, and he still has chores to do before he goes to school. After Penny finished speaking, she left immediately. He had absolutely no intention of saying anything to Harry Potter. Watching Penny's retreating figure, Lucas shook his head. Clearly, Penny knew this house could protect Harry Potter until he came of age. That's why I said that. Does it really have to be this awkward? However, Lucas has always been skeptical of this curse. He always felt that this was a lie Dumbledore made up to deceive Professor McGonagall, Hagrid, and others who wanted to adopt Harry Potter. The goal is to let Harry Potter experience setbacks in the Muggle world, so that when he goes to Hogwarts, he can be given some comfort and feel a strong sense of belonging. Lucas was taken aback. Could it be that Petunia's hostility towards Harry Potter was also due to something Dumbledore said? Then, by deliberately letting Harry Potter experience setbacks, they can better control him. After all, Dumbledore was capable of doing something like getting Quirrell to willingly hand himself over to Voldemort. He felt that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to speculate about Dumbledore's malice. After all, that old man is too shrewd. Lucas walked up to the closet and gently tapped it. The next moment, the door was flung open. It was obvious that Harry Potter had been right by the door the whole time. "Hello, who are you?" Harry Potter looked at Lucas with a face full of curiosity. Lucas said, "My name is Lucas Snape, and I came here specifically to find you." Harry Potter was taken aback, "Looking for me?" Lucas nodded, "Aren't you going to invite me in?" Harry Potter scratched his head, but... Seeing Harry Potter's expression, Lucas knew that the boy was insecure. After all, the closet space is indeed not very large. Lucas ignored Harry Potter and waved, causing Harry Potter to involuntarily step aside at the doorway. Lucas walked straight inside. Yes, that's very impolite. But Lucas was being incredibly polite to him, if it weren't for the chaotic storyline and the rewards. He kept his distance from any savior. After all, Harry Potter, like Death Note, brings nothing but misfortune and ultimately gains nothing. Harry Potter stared wide-eyed at Lucas, who had already entered the closet room. "How did you do that?" Lucas ignored him and instead looked around at the furnishings in the closet. A desk, a bed, and even a wardrobe. Sure enough, he proved his theory right once again. Lucas sat down at his desk. I casually flipped through the books on the desk. "Your aunt doesn't seem to treat you as badly as I thought." Harry Potter fell silent upon hearing this. It was obvious that he didn't agree with Lucas, but he habitually didn't refute him. Lucas laughed, "What? You don't agree with what I said?" To be honest, if I really disliked someone, firstly, I wouldn't adopt them, and secondly, I wouldn't provide them with such a living environment. It has a bed, a wardrobe, and even a desk. Harry Potter looked at Lucas, and for some reason, he suddenly felt that what this stranger said actually made a lot of sense. Meanwhile, in the outer living room, Vernon looked at Penny. "Shouldn't we just leave it at that?" Penny glanced towards the closet and shook her head. "That child is right, he's destined for that world anyway, we can't stop him." Vernon sighed. "It's your decision. The truth is, I don't really like him that much. It's just that he's your nephew." Penny didn't say anything. "I wonder what he's thinking." Inside the closet, Lucas looked at Harry Potter. "Sit down, this is your room. It's not right for me to sit while you stand." Harry Potter came to the bedside and sat down. Lucas said, "Oh, by the way, you just asked me how I did it, right?" Harry Potter nodded. Lucas asked, "Do you believe in magic?" Harry Potter couldn't help but chuckle. But they quickly realized what was happening. "Feel sorry." Lucas waved his hand, "It's all right, this is a normal reaction. After all, if someone suddenly came up to me talking about magic or something, I'd think that person was crazy too." Harry Potter did not speak. He's completely bewildered. Lucas didn't mind, being confused was normal. If it weren't for the system reward, he himself would be confused by his current behavior. Lucas said, "Luckily, I specifically set aside 2 hours to practice the levitation charm, just to prove to you that magic exists. As he spoke, Lucas snapped his fingers. The next moment, the books on the desk floated into the air. Harry Potter's eyes widened immediately. Is this magic? Lucas smiled and snapped his fingers again. The next moment, Harry Potter flew away. This gave Harry Potter quite a fright. Lucas said, "Haven't you noticed anything unusual about yourself? For example, when you're angry." Harry Potter was in the air, his face turned pale. Lucas said, "Oh, I forgot, let me put you down first." Lucas waved his hand, and Harry Potter landed steadily beside the bed. Harry Potter looked at Lucas, who was clearly terrified. His face was deathly pale. Clearly, Lucas's method of proof was somewhat too direct and brutal. Lucas said, "This is magic, and you are a wizard. To be precise, both your parents were wizards, so you inherited their talents and became a wizard yourself. Does this explanation make things easier for you? And those unusual things about you are all manifestations of magic." Well, kids are quick to accept these unknown things. At least Harry Potter accepted it immediately. This rendered Lucas's other methods of verification, such as using the killing curse to kill a rabbit, completely useless. As for whether his method would have any psychological impact on young Harry, Lucas asked, "What does this have to do with me?" Lucas's current goal is to make Harry Potter believe it, then take Harry Potter into the wizarding world ahead of time, then sabotage the plot, and afterwards he'll get the system's reward. It's that simple. Harry Potter's mental health issues are something Dumbledore should be concerned with, not him. Chapter 10. Harry Potter's eyes shone like high-wattage light bulbs. "Can I learn this?" Lucas nodded. "Okay, let me see. Your acceptance letter should arrive in a few days, and then someone will come to pick you up to go to magic school." Harry Potter stood up abruptly. This startled Lucas. Harry Potter said, "I can make things float too." Lucas rolled his eyes. Damn it, he's so jumpy, like a lunatic. He thought Harry Potter was going to attack him, and it almost turned into a green light. Lucas said, Yes, would you like to go and see the magical world?" Harry Potter exclaimed excitedly, "Is it okay?" Lucas nodded, "Okay." But Harry Potter quickly cooled down, "Auntie won't agree." Harry Potter looked somewhat disappointed. Lucas waved his hand, "He's already agreed. If I were you, I'd change my clothes right now and get ready to leave. I don't have much time, I have other things to do." Harry Potter is excited again. Sure enough, the young savior was naive and easily startled. Harry Potter quickly opened the wardrobe and took out a coat. "Shall we go now?" Lucas took a look. Wow, it even matches his inner lining. "You're saying this is an abused child? That's utter nonsense." Lucas stood up. "Let's go." Harry Potter quickly walked outside. Lucas followed behind him, just as they were about to leave. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a dark, shadowy thing in the corner of the wall. A pile of cockroaches. Lucas was shocked. But Lucas quickly realized, no, it wasn't a pile of cockroaches, it was real cockroaches. Lucas reacted quickly, pulling out a bottle he usually used to store herbal extracts from his pocket and stuffing the cockroach inside. You won't find cockroaches that look like a pile of cockroaches at Hogwarts. Harry Potter glanced at Vernon and Petunia, who were in the living room, with some concern. They found the two sitting there, without reacting at all. Harry Potter was overjoyed. Lucas gave Harry Potter a gentle nudge from behind. "Let's hurry up, don't waste time." Harry Potter nodded. He quickly walked outside. Lucas looked toward the Dursleys in the living room. Penny gave Lucas a complicated look. After Lucas and Harry Potter left, Vernon said, "Will everything be all right?" Penny said, "No, since the people from that world sent someone to find him, it means he's safe." Vernon nodded. "After all these years, you've developed an attachment to even a cat or dog. Not to mention supporting a person. What Vernon was referring to was precisely that idea of safety being with close blood relatives. Petunia believed that since the Wizarding World had sent Lucas, he would naturally protect Harry Potter's safety. Little did Lucas know, he still believed that this supposed blood relative was a lie told by Dumbledore. Harry Potter stood on the street, excitedly asking, "Where are we going now?" Lucas asked, "Do you have money?" Harry Potter shook his head. Lucas rolled his eyes. Indeed, one shouldn't have any expectations of a poor person. Fortunately, this wasn't his first time in the Muggle world. He still had some pounds left from the one he exchanged at Gringotts last time, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to afford even a taxi. Lucas said, "Go hail a taxi." Harry Potter nodded, then walked to the roadside. In this era, there were taxis in England. Moreover, there are actually quite a few taxis, but they are very expensive, and most people really can't afford them. Therefore, taking a taxi is very easy. After getting on the bus, Lucas told the driver a place, and the taxi started moving. Harry Potter seemed very excited. Lucas was astonished by the naive savior. This child didn't seem to doubt the truth at all. Luckily, he's a good person. If it were someone else, they would have torn your whole body apart, let alone your kidneys. The taxi stopped at an intersection. Lucas paid the money and then said, "Get out." Harry Potter quickly got off the bus. Looking at the Leaky Cauldron bar located at the intersection in front of me, Harry Potter said, "How can you even open a shop in a place like this?" Lucas said, "Go in." Lucas had no intention of giving Harry Potter any educational content. This matter concerns Hagrid. He cannot overstep his bounds. Of course, the most important thing is that he's rather lazy. Lucas led Harry Potter straight into the Leaky Cauldron. There weren't many people in the Leaky Cauldron bar. This is not a busy time for Leaky Cauldron. Old Tom stood behind the bar, wiping the glasses in his hands. Although magic could help, Old Tom still preferred to wipe the cups himself. Perhaps, this is the persistence of a bar owner? The wind chimes at the door rang, and Old Tom called out, "Welcome." Then he raised his head. "Lucas? What brings you here at this hour?" Lucas said, "Go to Diagon Alley." "By the way, did Professor Snape come to the Leaky Cauldron today?" Old Tom said, "I came by this morning." Lucas nodded, "Give me a drink, and he should have one too." Old Tom turned to look at the awkward Harry Potter standing to the side. "Oh, a new face. Aren't you going to introduce me?" Upon hearing this, Harry Potter greeted him, saying, "Hello, my name is Harry Potter." As Harry Potter finished speaking, the 2 or 3 scattered customers in the tavern suddenly looked up. Old Tom slammed his wine glass onto the table. "Harry Potter?" Harry Potter asked, puzzled, "Is there a problem, sir?" Old Tom glanced at the few scattered customers in the tavern. After confirming that there were no unfamiliar faces, lowering his voice, "Lucas, is he the Harry Potter I'm thinking of?" Lucas nodded, "Yes, that's him." Old Tom was instantly shocked. "So the rumors are true, Harry Potter really will be enrolling this year." Lucas picked up the non-alcoholic beverage Old Tom had prepared for him from the table and took a sip. Obviously, you could figure it out by calculating the time. After all, his birthday isn't a secret in the magical world. Harry Potter listened to the conversation between Old Tom and Harry Potter with a completely bewildered expression. "Excuse me, is there something wrong with me?" Old Tom placed a glass of the same drink that Lucas had in front of Harry Potter. "No problem, it's just that you're very famous. Welcome to the Wizarding World, Harry Potter." Harry Potter looked at Old Tom with a completely bewildered expression. Lucas said, "All right, hurry up and drink it. After you finish, I'll take you to see the magical world." Harry Potter nodded. After finishing his drink, Lucas placed several copper nats on the table. Then he took Harry Potter and headed straight for the backyard. Chapter 11. Out of the corner of his eye, Lucas saw a group of customers who had been drinking in a tavern. Take advantage of the fact that no one is paying attention and leave in a hurry. Lucas's lips curled into a slight smile. The experiment has begun. Lucas led Harry Potter to the backyard patio and stood in front of a wall. Lucas said, "Harry Potter, are you ready for a whole new world?" Hearing Lucas's words, Harry Potter felt a surge of excitement. Lucas ignored Harry Potter's reaction, he just suddenly had a mischievous urge to say that line. From within Lucas's sleeve, the pure white wand slipped into his hand. I tapped the third wall tile from the top of the trash can, the second tile from the middle, 3 times with my magic wand. The next moment, the wall began to deform. Harry Potter instinctively took 2 steps back. Soon, the walls unfolded, and a street appeared before Harry Potter. Harry Potter's mouth dropped open, he was stunned. At the same time, in Lucas's mind, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations, host, for breaking the plot and entering the wizarding world ahead of schedule with Harry Potter. Honkai Impact Rating, D. Reward, Harry's Happy Charm, Expelliarmus. A huge question mark appeared in Lucas's eyes. Hey guys, are you making a profit as a middleman? Such a big deal, and you only give it a D grade. Bringing Harry Potter into the wizarding world was just a little ahead of schedule, the system's failure level was only detected as D grade. Lucas waved his hand, never mind, Harry's Happy Charm is all right, isn't it? Even a small fly is still meat, take it slow, and reap the benefits little by little. Lucas led Harry Potter into Diagon Alley, and the passageway behind them closed automatically. Afterwards, Lucas took Harry Potter for a stroll in Diagon Alley. Harry Potter is like Grandma Lu entering the Grand View Garden. They are curious about everything. Looking at the child's ignorant attitude, Lucas's face was full of disdain. She had no idea what it would be like when Snape first brought her to Diagon Alley. Harry Potter looked around at this and that. It's clear that Lucas is definitely not a good guide. He had no intention of being a guide, he brought Harry Potter to Diagon Alley to farm rewards. At that moment, he had no time to think about Harry Potter. He was thinking about what to do next: protagonist, supporting character, collapse. It seems like the collapse is quite simple, but in reality, it's not that simple at all. After all, he's the protagonist, especially since there might be some scheme by Dumbledore involved. Therefore, there are some things Lucas can't make too obvious. He was afraid of falling into Dumbledore's trap. Lucas really didn't have the confidence to compete with the old silver coin in terms of brains. Just because someone travels through time doesn't mean they'll become smarter. Lucas certainly didn't feel his brain had improved much. Not to mention comparing intelligence with someone like Dumbledore. Although he has now brought Harry Potter into the wizarding world, it seems there's not much he can change now. He had certainly considered taking Harry Potter to buy school supplies in advance, but that was unrealistic. This has nothing to do with money. Although Harry Potter hasn't gotten the key to his vault yet, Lucas can lend it to him and he can pay it back later. The real problem is that he hasn't received his acceptance letter yet. As for things like robes and books, Lucas felt that even if they were brought forward, the degree of change wouldn't be significant. The only thing that might be of some use is taking him to buy a wand beforehand. However, Ollivander will not sell wands to new students without a Hogwarts acceptance letter. That's the rule. So, after thinking for a long time, Lucas helplessly realized that there seemed to be nothing he could change now. Just then, a voice came from inside. Lucas. Lucas turned his head to look. 2 platinum gold streaks entered his eyes. Lucas's eyes lit up instantly. Isn't this a coincidence? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? I was thinking there was nothing that could be changed. This is practically delivered to our doorstep. Lucas nodded slightly. Good day, Mr. Malfoy. Lucius nodded slightly. why did you come to Diagon Alley alone? Where's Severus? Lucius's relationship with Snape was definitely not too bad. After all, the two of them had spent some time together during their school days. Lucius has always been friendly to Lucas. Perhaps it was out of respect for Snape, or perhaps it was because their names sounded similar. Lucas said, "The professor is busy, I brought a friend to Diagon Alley to have a look." Lucius let out a soft "Hey, friends? You don't have many people you can call friends." Lucas was about to speak. But then they heard Draco's voice, "Are you Lucas's friend?" "Hello, my name is Draco, Draco Malfoy." Draco's face was full of pride. But it's obvious that Harry Potter simply doesn't understand what's so proud about this young master. He said somewhat awkwardly, "Hello, my name is Harry Potter." As they spoke, he shook hands with Draco. But after Harry Potter finished speaking, both Malfoy and Malfoy, who always considered themselves noblemen, were stunned. Draco's reaction was even more exaggerated, his eyes wide open. Lucius abruptly turned to look at Lucas. Lucas looked at Draco. "Draco, take Harry for a walk. Remember what I told you? How should we make friends?" Draco instinctively shivered. "Remember, treat everyone equally, and be easygoing with your friends." After saying that, Draco completely ignored Harry Potter's astonishment. He grabbed Harry Potter and ran. They had just shaken hands and weren't letting go yet. Right now, Draco is holding Harry Potter's hand as they run. Lucas watched this scene with a smile on his face. Isn't that a change too? As for Draco's reaction, it was actually quite simple. This kid was arrogant even when he was a child. It's because of his family situation, of course. On one occasion, at a Malfoy family gathering, Snape was invited and brought Lucas along. Draco wanted to recruit Lucas as his underling. As a result, it's quite obvious that Lucas gave Draco a good lesson on how to make friends. Of course, the two children's playful fighting didn't make Lucius hold a grudge against him or anything. After all, with Snape, the youngest potions master, as his backer, Lucas could honestly be considered someone who could do whatever he wanted in the wizarding world. Lucius looked at Lucas. "Lucas, I need an explanation. Why did you bring Harry Potter to the wizarding world? Shouldn't he be in the Muggle world?" Lucas waved his hand. "Calm down, Mr. Malfoy." Lucas watched Draco and Harry Potter walk away. His face was full of anticipation as he waited. Waiting for a beautiful sound. Chapter 12. Ding! Congratulations, host, for drastically disrupting the plot. The friendship and acquaintance between Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter. The extent of this disruption has been detected and may alter the entire subsequent storyline. Honkai Impact Rating, SS. Rewards are distributed, and the process is controlled and silent. Lucas's eyes lit up instantly. Here it comes. He was right after all, the main characters and supporting characters, the minor villains in the early stages, and the protagonist. The extent of this collapse is definitely not small. However, he didn't expect the extent of the collapse to be so great. SS rank. The degree of collapse was even greater than the collapse that occurred upon its own appearance. Wait a minute, something's not right. This logic doesn't work. Shouldn't my own appearance be the point of greatest collapse? After all, according to the cause and effect relationship, my appearance will affect the entire plot. Isn't this supposed to be the most severely damaged area? Why is the rating S? Lucas's face instantly darkened. In his mind, he asked, "System, come out here and tell me, did you steal my rewards? Why is my appearance only rated S in terms of collapse level? Did you withhold my rewards?" Ding! The host is neither the protagonist nor a supporting character. Although the plot might fall apart because of the host's role is insufficient. In other words, the host's importance is lacking. After hearing the system's explanation, Lucas's face darkened even more. "All right, that's enough. Lucas felt a pang of sadness as he watched Draco and Harry Potter strolling down the street. Lucas was incredibly grateful that he had taught Draco how to make friends. Although the methods were somewhat cruel, as expected, heaven rewards those who work hard, and he was one of them. Just then, Lucius, who was standing to the side, could no longer contain his anger. He gritted his teeth and said, "Lucas, Lucas Snape, what are you doing? Are you treating me like I'm invisible?" Lucas then remembered that Lucius was standing next to him. "I almost forgot about that." He was already planning to check the reward items. Lucas said, "No, Mr. Malfoy, I'm sorry, I was thinking about something and didn't notice." "What did you just say?" Lucius's face was even darker than Lucas's. "Why is Harry Potter here?" Lucas said, "Oh, you mean that? I'm the same age as Harry Potter, and he's starting school this year. I was just curious, and since I had nothing else to do, I looked up Harry Potter's address and decided to come check it out. After all, this is the savior, so of course I'm very curious." This was also a reason Lucas had thought of beforehand. After all, if either Dumbledore or Snape asked about his contact with Harry Potter, he would have to give an explanation. After all, the identity of a savior is far too sensitive. Lucius lowered his voice, "Don't you know our relationship with the Death Eaters? How dare you approach Harry Potter? You're asking for trouble." Lucas said, "I know, but it doesn't matter, does it? And, Uncle Lucius, shouldn't you be thanking me?" Lucius almost laughed out of anger. "Should I thank you?" Lucas suddenly became serious and asked, "Uncle Lucius, do you think the Dark Lord is dead?" Upon hearing this, Lucius was suddenly taken aback. But then he added, "Of course, everyone in the magical world knows this." Lucas chuckled, "Then why do you still keep things left to you by the Dark Lord in your home, and why do you frequently send people to search for things in places frequented by dark creatures? Although you publicly stated that you were searching for rare materials to supplement the Malfoy collection, is that really the case?" Lucius's expression changed instantly. His eyes were fixed intently on Lucas. "What do you know?" Lucas said, "Don't be nervous, Uncle Lucius. Professor Snape is in the same boat as you. I don't know your specific plans, but I do know that there are some things we need to have a backup plan for. For example, Harry Potter." Lucius paused for a moment, "What are you trying to say?" Lucas said, "The Dark Lord, what a brilliant and talented person he was, and he died so simply. I think not only I don't believe it, but you don't either. You sent people out just to see if the Dark Lord was really dead. What if he hadn't died?" Lucius's pupils contracted, and his body trembled slightly. Clearly, he was thinking about the less than pleasant moments when he was punished by the Dark Lord. Lucas continued, "If he's not dead, then he'll be back sooner or later. I know the pure-blood family's attitude towards Dumbledore. You look down on Dumbledore, but you also can't afford to offend him. This shows that you also acknowledge Dumbledore's strength. If the Dark Lord returns, he and Dumbledore will inevitably clash again. Who can say for sure who will emerge victorious then? So why not leave yourself an escape route? Harry Potter was that fallback option, wasn't he? The Dark Lord won, and Draco's relationship with Harry Potter was just childish behavior. If the Dark Lord fails, then given Draco's relationship with the Savior, the Malfoy family will be fine, won't they?" Hearing Lucas say that, Lucius looked thoughtful. After a moment, Lucius asked, "Does Professor Snape know about this?" Lucas shook his head, "I don't know, it was all my personal action." "Of course, if you intend to tell Professor Snape, Uncle Lucius, then wait until Professor Snape asks me. I will not admit to what I said today. I simply brought Harry Potter to Diagon Alley and happened to run into you. As for your actions, they are none of my business. I think you understand what I mean." Lucius gave Lucas a deep look. He suddenly laughed, I'm starting to take you seriously now. Tomorrow I'll send Severus an invitation to celebrate Draco's admission to Hogwarts. And you, who are also about to enroll at Hogwarts, will also receive a gift. Lucas understood the unspoken meaning in Lucius's words. Lucius listened to him and, to express his gratitude, would give him a reward. As for what the benefit would be, Lucas didn't know, nor did he need to know. When the Malfoy family makes a move, they're never stingy. Lucas nodded slightly, then thank you very much, Uncle Lucius. The two abruptly ended the conversation, as if they had never discussed it at all. They started chatting about everyday things. Not long after they started talking, Draco returned with Harry Potter. The two of them were each eating an ice cream, and Draco was holding an extra one in his hand. Lucas, please have some. Chapter 13. Lucas glanced at Draco with surprise. Surprisingly, this kid actually remembered to treat him to ice cream. You know, the memories I left Draco shouldn't have been very good. Draco noticed Lucas's gaze. He said, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Lucas shook his head and took the ice cream. Thanks. Draco raised his chin slightly, a hint of arrogance in his expression. It was obvious that young Malfoy was in a very good mood after making new friends today. Draco looked at Lucius. Dad, I want to invite Harry over to our house. Upon hearing this, Lucius and Lucas spoke in unison. No. Draco and Harry Potter were taken aback by the two's sudden reaction. Lucas coughed twice. Harry, you need to go home, otherwise your family will worry. Let's play together again when we have time. Harry Potter then remembered that he still had a home. Mainly, everything he saw in this magical world was too shocking for him. Therefore, he had long been somewhat reluctant to leave his homeland. I wish I could stay in the magical world forever. Lucius said, Yes, Draco, invite your new friends when you have time. You forgot, we're going to a party at the Parkinson's family's house tonight. Draco gave an "oh," sounding somewhat unhappy. Lucius looked at Lucas. We're leaving now. Lucas nodded slightly. Yes, Mr. Malfoy. Draco glanced at Harry Potter with a hint of reluctance. Harry, it's a promise, before school starts, we'll go shopping together in Diagon Alley. Harry Potter nodded. Yes. Lucius placed his hand on Draco's shoulder, and the next moment, the two apparat and vanished from the spot. Harry Potter's eyes widened. Is this also a wizarding technique? Lucas nodded. Yes, you'll be able to learn it later. How's the magical world? Harry Potter smiled. It's wonderful. I've seen so many amazing things. Lucas nodded. All right, let's go then, it's getting late. Harry Potter was a little reluctant to leave, but he had indeed been out for a long time today. Normally, his aunt wouldn't let him play outside for so long. The two left the Leaky Cauldron bar anyway. Reaching the roadside, Lucas waved to flag down a taxi. Privet Road. The driver floored the gas pedal, and the taxi shot off. Lucas's internal communication system. What is a system? A controllable silent system. Ding, Obscurus is a dark substance bred by wizards. To be precise, Obscurus is a kind of dark creature. Therefore, when it gets out of control, it becomes extremely violent and powerful. However, the controllable Obscurus rewarded by the system is an inanimate object. The host can transform into an Obscurus at any time and use its power. In simple terms, the Obscurians possess a dual personality. Normal people also have an Obscurian personality, while the host, by fusing with a controllable Obscurian, will not have another personality, and therefore can use it at any time. After the system explained it, Lucas understood. Although I've read these things in the original work. However, the original work did not have a truly controllable Obscurus. Will there be any unusual activity or event if we merge with the Silent One? Ding, no. Lucas said, then let's just fuse them. Ding, reward collected, fusion begins. As the system's voice faded, Lucas felt a certain power awakening within him. Yes, it's a recovery. This feeling is very special. The process was swift. Lucas slowly raised his hand, and a wisp of black mist flashed across his palm. Neither Harry Potter nor the taxi driver were alerted. Lucas was thrilled. Is this the power of silence? Even with just this one strand, Lucas felt he could kill a bull. Silently, unlike a curse, which is a magical attack. The Obscurial, on the other hand, uses dark power and violent magic to directly inflict physical attacks. Therefore, the destructive power of the Obscurus is far greater than that of a curse. Only after receiving the reward did Lucas have time to talk to our savior. Harry, I haven't congratulated you yet on making a new friend. Harry Potter smiled shyly, thank you, Mr. Snape. It's a pleasure to meet you, and Draco too. Lucas smiled. Just turn right ahead, and you'll reach Privet Road. Don't look so gloomy. Trust me, your aunt and uncle won't treat you the same way they used to. Harry Potter exclaimed in surprise, really? Lucas thought for a moment and said, actually, there are many things that need to be viewed from a different perspective. Harry, I hope you'll always remember this, in this world, look at everyone and everything from different perspectives, and you'll discover many things you previously overlooked. Harry Potter scratched his head. Some parts I didn't understand. I was just about to ask. But then Lucas's expression suddenly changed. The next moment, Lucas suddenly turned around, grabbed him, and a pure white wand appeared in his hand, ripping the taxi door open. Lucas then jumped off the car with him, and before they landed, he saw Lucas wave his wand. Everything happened so fast. Before he could react, the taxi suddenly exploded. Lucas landed on the ground with Harry Potter in his arms. He glared at the three people blocking his way. The three were dressed in black robes and carried magic wands. What's happening, Mr. Snape? Harry Potter exclaimed in horror. Lucas said coldly, Harry, when I tell you to run, run. Run towards home. Remember, don't look back, don't stop. Harry Potter didn't know what was going on, but out of trust in Lucas, he nodded vigorously. Lucas looked at the three people in front of him, three dark wizards. Lucas didn't even need to think, this was definitely a Death Eater. Admittedly, Voldemort fell from power, and many Death Eaters were arrested and imprisoned. However, the Death Eaters are actually a huge organization. No one would think that the Death Eaters are just a few people from the original books. Those who were imprisoned in Azkaban were the core members of the Death Eaters. A member of a pure-blood family. However, at the height of his power, Voldemort had many followers. Many people naturally joined the Death Eaters. These dark wizards are actually the core fighting force of the Death Eaters. After Voldemort's downfall, many fled and went into hiding, waiting for Voldemort's return. They were all Voldemort's loyal followers. At the Leaky Cauldron, the wizard who left was deliberately let go by Lucas because he needed to verify one of his conjectures. Chapter 14. Lucas looked at the three dark wizards in front of him. You actually dared to attack right there on the street and kill a muggle. The three dark wizards stared at Lucas with sinister eyes. The dark wizard standing in the center spoke in a sinister tone, Lucas Snape, Severus Snape's adopted son, I didn't expect you to react so quickly. Lucas gently shook the wand in his hand. This was also his first time facing a dark wizard. He wasn't nervous at all, even though the system had only given out such a small reward so far. But even setting aside Azkaban's three-piece set, the Obscurial alone is enough to make him invincible. However, before that, he needs to see if his guess is correct. The dark wizard said, for Snape's sake, get out of my way, and I might spare your life. Lucas sneered, you cowardly rat, hiding your face, you dare to give Professor Snape face. Upon hearing Lucas's words, the dark wizard who had just spoken suddenly unleashed a murderous aura. You're asking for death. I'll grant your wish. The next moment, the black wizard waved his wand, and a spell shot directly towards Lucas. Lucas also retaliated immediately. The silent, staffless disarming spell was unleashed directly. At the same time, he shouted at Harry Potter, "Run!" Without the slightest hesitation, Harry Potter took off running. Lucas had to admit one thing: Harry Potter definitely had a knack for escaping. That's incredibly fast. Lucas's attack was blocked by the Dark Wizard. He turned and said, "Go kill Harry Potter." The other two nodded, and then chased after Harry Potter in the direction he had run off to. Lucas ignored Harry Potter. Who cares if he lives or dies? If Harry Potter dies, that's perfect, the plot will be completely changed, and he'll become rich overnight. However, Lucas felt he wouldn't die, because at that moment, he could see a figure in a long robe slowly walking towards him from the end of the street. Lucas recognized the familiar look immediately. Dumbledore. Sure enough, his guess was correct. Harry Potter is definitely protected in secret. Unbeknownst to the Dark Wizard, a powerful boss was approaching from behind him. He grinned maliciously at Lucas. "I didn't expect that someone your age would already possess such magical skill." A silent, wandless disarming spell, not bad at all. "Unfortunately, you're still going to die today." Lucas ignored him and simply put away his wand. The Dark Wizard laughed. "Give up struggling? Well, you should indeed give up. Then I'll grant you a quick death." Lucas said, "Why don't you look behind you?" The Dark Wizard said coldly, "Trying to use such a petty trick? Do you think I'd fall for it?" The Dark Wizard had barely finished speaking. A voice came from behind him, "Little Lucas, it's time for you to look at me." The Black Wizard tensed up instantly. He turned his head away. His eyes widened instantly. "Dumbledore." His tone was full of terror, and he immediately wanted to run away. But how could he possibly escape from Dumbledore? Dumbledore neither chanted a spell nor made any other movements, he simply glanced at her. "Seriously, I'm not kidding." Dumbledore just glanced at that Dark Wizard. The next moment, vines appeared on the ground, completely enveloping the Black Wizard. The Dark Wizard was immediately immobilized on the spot. Lucas said, "Professor Dumbledore, what brings you here?" It must be said, Lucas is truly a great actor. At least, he himself thinks his acting skills are pretty good. Dumbledore said, "I'm curious, Lucas, what are you doing here?" Lucas did not answer Dumbledore. Instead, he said, "Quick, Professor Dumbledore, save Harry. Two Dark Wizards are chasing after him." But right after Lucas finished speaking, he saw a figure walking not far away, with two people wrapped up like dumplings by vines behind him. Lucas paused for a moment. Professor Snape. This time, he didn't act, which genuinely surprised Snape. In his opinion, one Dumbledore would suffice. Two people were dispatched. One was Dumbledore, the strongest man in the world, and the other was the Dean? This is outrageous. Snape approached, waved his hand, and two vine-covered dumplings fell to the ground. Then he went up to Lucas. A pair of sharp eyes stared at Lucas. Lucas was about to speak. Snape suddenly grabbed his shoulder and turned him around. "Turn back again." Lucas clearly saw Snape breathe a sigh of relief. However, his expression grew increasingly cold. Lucas was starting to back down. He knew Snape's earlier action was to check if he was injured. Dumbledore said, "So, Lucas, you still haven't answered my question." Lucas repeated the same lines he had spoken to Lucius. He spoke frankly and openly. After all, these were all contingency plans he had already come up with. Therefore, there is naturally no sense of incongruity. Dumbledore looked at Lucas with a probing gaze. Lucas immediately became wary. This old man had practiced seeking mind as if it were a passive skill. However, he hadn't yet learned occlumency, and Lucas underestimated Harry Potter's importance. Is this old man actually going to use legilimency on him? Just then, Snape flashed in front of Lucas and stood in his way. Snape's voice was icy, barely containing his anger. Albus Dumbledore. With his view blocked by Snape, Lucas felt the invisible pressure on him vanish instantly. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Dumbledore looked at Snape but said nothing. Snape stood his ground, refusing to yield an inch. After a moment, Dumbledore said, "I'm going back to school now." After saying that, Dumbledore was swallowed up by the vortex. Snape turned his head, his gaze still so cold. Lucas swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, Professor, I won't do it again." Snape snorted and grabbed Lucas by the back of the neck. The next moment, apparition was activated. Lucas could feel that Snape's palm was warm and slightly damp. He was sweating. Was it because he was nervous? Nervous about himself? Lucas was touched. "Oh, Professor Snape, so stubborn yet kind-hearted." Snape brought Lucas to their home. A house in Godric Valley. This is also the place where Lily died. After Lily died, Snape bought this house, whether out of remembrance or something else, it's unclear. Anyway, when Snape wasn't at school during the holidays, he and Lucas stayed here. Chapter 15. Once inside the house, Snape released his grip. "Lucas Snape, tell me, what the hell are you up to?" Lucas immediately stood at attention. When Snape called him by his full name, it meant that Snape was truly angry. Lucas has already experienced this. That time, he got a really bad beating. It was the only time Snape had ever beaten him up in his entire life. Lucas hesitated for a moment before saying, "I just want to meet the Savior, really." Snape said, "Lucas, if old Tom hadn't sent you to Diagon Alley and told me about Harry Potter, do you know what would have happened to you today? You will die." Snape was genuinely angry. This was the first time Lucas had ever seen him speak so much in one breath, except during class. But Lucas knew that Snape genuinely cared about him. Lucas lowered his head. "I understand, Professor." Snape, looking at Lucas, said, "Your wand? What happened? Ollivander said you didn't go to buy a wand." Lucas took out the white wand and said, "I had it ordered for me, it was made in the Kingdom of Fa." It's unclear whether it was due to the system's immense power, or whether Snape simply didn't care about these things. So, I didn't ask any more questions. In fact, Snape mostly left Lucas to his own devices. However, this is actually quite good. At least, whatever abilities I acquire later won't cause too much of a stir in Snape's eyes. Of course, the Silent One is an exception. Lucas doesn't plan to use this thing much unless he's confident he'll become invincible. Otherwise, this thing called Silent One is very dangerous. There are too many who want to remain silent. Especially since it's a controllable silent phenomenon. In the original story, Grindelwald simply wanted a Obscurus. Besides Grindelwald, Newt also has a Silent One. However, his was a small one. Moreover, it was the only one that was completely removed from the wizard's body without any damage. Wait, it seems the wizard who was stripped away became a squib? But at least he didn't die. Lucas felt that if his controllable secrets were exposed, he would really have to have RA investigate them. At that time, there will be a lot of trouble. Fortunately, not many people in the magical world actually know Obscurus. Only Dumbledore, Snape, and their ilk possessed sufficient strength. Most dark wizards wouldn't recognize what this thing is. Therefore, Lucas only needs to be careful and doesn't need to worry too much. As long as he doesn't use it recklessly in front of those old Aurors or people who have seen the Obscurial, he'll be fine. Snape tested Lucas on his progress in memorizing potion recipes that day. In the end, I was still quite satisfied. As for potions, for Lucas, who had received education at Great Xia, it wasn't actually that difficult. Moreover, Lucas's talent in potions is not bad at all. Late at night, Lucas lay in bed. He was pondering ways to prevent the plot from spiraling out of control. Now I have a max-level Azkaban 3-piece set, plus a controllable Obscurus. He might consider saving that simple-minded Professor Quirrell. Professor Quirrell taught at Hogwarts for 3 years, always teaching Muggle studies. He was really good to Lucas. Moreover, he was very easygoing. In fact, before his trip to Albania, the students all liked him very much. Therefore, Lucas really doesn't want someone like that to end up in a miserable state. Moreover, if we could save Professor Quirrell, the extent to which the plot breaks down will be particularly large. Moreover, without Quirrell, Voldemort couldn't return to Hogwarts. Does that mean Lucas completely ruined the plot of the first movie? What kind of reward should we give for this? Lucas was starting to get excited. It's decided, we'll leave for the Black Forest in Albania tomorrow. Snape will be very busy during this period when school starts. After making up his mind, Lucas closed his eyes and soon fell into a deep sleep. The next day, Lucas woke up naturally. I checked the time. It's already 10 o'clock. Lucas washed up and went downstairs. Snape isn't here, he's probably busy with something. Breakfast is already prepared on the table. Although it was very simple, it was enough to get Snape to make breakfast with the same hands he used to brew potions. Lucas still felt he should be honored. Sitting at the dining table, Lucas tore off pieces of bread and put them in his mouth. While thinking about the next steps, the Black Forest of Albania is a truly magical place. Moreover, this place is quite famous throughout Hogwarts. In the original books, Voldemort also hid in the Albanian Black Forest more than once. After being defeated by Lily with a special spell, he went to the Albanian Black Forest. After failing to steal the magic stone, he still went to the Albanian Black Forest. But in fact, he had already been to the Black Forest of Albania long before that. As mentioned in the original book, when he applied for the position of defense against the dark arts professor, he encountered the ghost of Helena, who was using the alias Lady Grey. And from her, I learned the location of the crown. It's inside a hollow tree in a forest in Albania. Helena hid the crown there because, according to her own account, Rowena Ravenclaw's magic could not reach the Albanian Black Forest and thus could not summon back her crown. This demonstrates that the Albanian Black Forest is unique. Voldemort searched for the crown in the Albanian Black Forest for many years and found it. Later, he went to the Albanian Black Forest to avoid trouble, partly because he was familiar with the place. Another possibility is that Voldemort may have discovered something special about that place. This intrigued Lucas. Although their appearance is Western, their souls are ultimately those of the Great Sia people. Therefore, Lucas always retained a characteristic of the Bactrians. I enjoy deciphering mysteries, exploring the unknown, and getting to the bottom of things. Of course, Lucas was also very cautious. He probably wouldn't have ventured into the Black Forest before obtaining the Obscurus. After all, that place is not easy to go to, it is inhabited by countless dark creatures. But now that he had the silent witness, Lucas felt confident enough to take the plunge, after breakfast. Because this trip is quite far, and Lucas doesn't know how many days he'll be gone. So he left a note for Snape. He only mentioned going to the Kingdom of Fa, and there was a problem with the wand. This wasn't his first time traveling abroad over the years, so Snape wouldn't pay much attention to his suggestion of going to France. What's the easiest way for a wizard to go out? Night bus. Of course, night bus couldn't send Lucas directly to the Black Forest in Albania. However, as the adopted son of the potions master, he had worked with Snape on some potion research over the years. Although his contributions weren't particularly significant, he still received a share of the profits. He can still afford to sit down even with a cross-border key. Chapter 16. Lucas hailed a taxi and headed straight for the Ministry of Magic. Of course, it's a taxi in the Muggle world. He had enough pounds he exchanged for to cover his taxi fare. Without mastering apparition, everything is really inconvenient. I wonder when the system will reward him with a max-level apparition. What? You're saying you have to be at least 16 to learn apparition, and you even have to take an exam? Don't be ridiculous, my father Snape. The Snape from Severus Snape. Don't you know anything about both the legitimate and criminal worlds? Who would dare disrespect my father? Speaking of the Black Ones, they were former Death Eaters, and even Death Eaters highly valued by Voldemort. Among the white-robed, he is the youngest potions master. To put it simply, after Voldemort's downfall, Snape, despite being a notorious Death Eater, was not targeted by the Ministry of Magic. It was partly due to Dumbledore's intervention, and partly due to Snape himself. Lucas still remembers it. It was when he was 3 years old. One day, the Ministry of Magic sent people to Snape's door to ask him to be questioned. The first thing he said was that he wanted to take Snape to the Ministry of Magic because of the Death Eaters. The word religion is only 3 characters, I am not one of them. Then the door slammed shut. Yes, Lucas, sitting in the baby chair at the time, was utterly shocked. And then, that was the end of it. Anyway, that's how the matter ended. Therefore, my father Snape's words actually carry a lot of weight in the wizarding world. After all, no one wants to offend a potions master. Most importantly, when this potions master doesn't want to reason, he might resort to some physical force. The car was parked in a fountain square. Lucas rubbed his chin. If he remembered correctly, the entrance to the Ministry of Magic was nearby. Using his dwindling memories of the Ministry of Magic, Lucas actually managed to find the entrance. His purpose in coming to the Ministry of Magic was to use the International Portrait. If he had to walk there by himself, he wouldn't have been able to save Quirrell. The grass on Quirrell's grave is several meters tall. Lucas remembered that the key to the interstate portal was supposed to be obtained from the Department of Magical Transportation. Lucas looked at the road signs, determined the direction, and then headed towards his destination. There are a lot of people in the Ministry of Magic.